Nestled along the banks of the River Doon is Alloway, the home of Scotland's national poet Robert Burns. And on his birthday, we thought, who better to help us celebrate than Ayrshire born and bred Andy the Highlander, a man who spends his life promoting Scotland.
So here we are in Burns Cottage.
Where it all began.
Robbie Burns was actually born in this very room on the 25th of January 1759, one of 7 siblings. His father, William Burns and Agnes Brown, are buried just along the road in Alloway Old Kirkyard. Very special place.
A lot of history in this room.
Loads of history.
Well, why don't we go for a wee explore and we can find out a bit more
Let's
about the
do
man.
it.
Despite Burns' family living in poverty, his parents wanted to give him the best chance at life.
Burns' father, William, believed that Robbie should have an education, so he got him reading and writing right here at a very early age.
Was that unusual for that time for someone from this kind of background?
It was. Many people were illiterate. They couldn't read or write. The fact that he came from these humble beginnings and became Scotland's national bard, what a legacy to leave behind. He died at the age of 37 years old, still quite a young man.
Burns began writing poetry when he was just 15. He often focused on issues affecting the poor and the need for social equality. But many poems were also about women he took a shine to. That charm continued right through his life, during which he fathered 12 children with 4 different women. Today, he's thought to have 900 living descendants, including American fashion designer Tommy Hilfiger.
So Burns was obviously a bit of a womaniser. He loved women and they loved him back. He was young, educated and very charismatic. It was his fascination and adoration of the opposite sex that actually inspired him to write some of his most famous poems and songs.
How do you think that translates today? Do you think he would have been quite so popular in 2024 as he was back then?
Things were different back then. Remember, this was 200 years ago. Burns was a product of his time. If he saw an opportunity, he went for it. It's obviously a different world now, but you know what? We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have a wee bit too much to drink sometimes. And I think a lot of people can relate to Burns. So I think he would be very popular today in amongst certain circles.
Ye banks and braes o' bonny Doon, how can ye bloom sae fresh and fair?
So here we are on Brigadoon, featured in Tam O'Shanter.
Tam O'Shanter tells the tale of a local man who spends his evenings in the pub until one night he finds himself being chased by witches. He heads for the Brigadoon and manages to escape, but one of the witches rips his horse's tail off as they flee.
I think there's something in Burns' work for everyone. He had such a broad range of content, wide topics, whether it was love, relationships, whiskey, drinking.
And of course it's those endearing qualities of Burns that you spoke about that mean we're still celebrating him today.
Absolutely. People have been reading Burns' works for over 200 years and have deemed his work worthy of remembering, worthy of celebrating. There's more statues of Robbie Burns worldwide, more than any non-religious figure, apart from Queen Victoria and Christopher Columbus.
The first Burns supper was held at his childhood home in 1801, when 9 of Robert's friends got together to mark the 5th anniversary of his death. The tradition of celebrating him has continued ever since.
Fair fa your honest sonsy face, great chieftain a' the puddin' race, aboon them all ye tak your place, pench, tripe or therm, weel are ye worthy o' a grace as lang's my aim.
The McSween family have been making haggis for 3 generations.
His knife, see rustic labour dicht, and cut ye up with ready slecht, trench in your gushing entrails brech like ony ditch.
It's probably not an overestimation to say that haggis is a huge part of your life.
Yes.
Do you have Robert Burns to thank for that?
Very much so. I think every haggis producer in the country, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to Burns. I think he was flabbergasted, or maybe disgusted, as to how French cuisine was taking such a kind of foothold in the the aristocracy diet in Edinburgh, and he was horrified that not enough haggis was being consumed, and he wanted to savour and celebrate the humble haggis. And if it wasn't for Burns writing to a haggis and then the men that celebrated the first Burns supper, you wouldn't see it in restaurants, in burgers or in nachos or burritos or on top of pizzas.
So tell me about the traditional Burns supper now. How would you go about preparing that haggis?
Haggis will either be the main course or it will be the starter course. My opinion, it would always be the main course, because why would you have something else to top the haggis? The haggis is what this is all about. Myself and my family will have haggis, neeps and tatties and whiskey cream sauce. We will address the haggis. We will potentially have cocky soup, which is very traditional, and a dessert like cranachan and maybe some cheese and oat cakes.
Preparing for Burns Night is undoubtedly McSween's busiest time of year.
We go from doing about 50,000 units a week every other week of the year, and then we end up packing about 50,000 units a day.
Wow,
so
okay.
the step up in volume is massive. And as soon as one Burns is over, we start getting ready for the next Burns.
It sounds like it's pretty much your Christmas.
It is the Scottish Christmas. It's on the 25th, it is the Scottish Christmas.
Traditionally, only men would be invited to join a Burns supper, but in more recent years they've evolved to become far more inclusive. And now, thousands of suppers are held across the globe every January. What's your favourite part of the night that you always look forward to?
The haggis.
The haggis.
Always the haggis. And whiskey now. Whiskey recently, so probably the whiskey tonight.
I think for me it's more just occasion, just an excuse to get together.
I think yes, an excuse to get together and make a night out of it.
No, the toast to the lassies and the address to the haggis.
Yeah.
And I like all the traditional things. It's our first time, so yeah, looking forward to just feeling Scottish for these.
Do you know what to expect? Is it going to be a bit of a surprise for you?
No idea.
No. Are you big Burns fans yourselves, or just a fan of a good night out?
I'm a massive Burns fan. I'm a massive Burns fan.
The Beats and Cancer charity in Glasgow hosts a Burns supper every year. More than 400 people are here to celebrate the bards and support the charity. Well, here we are, 223 years on from the very first Burns supper. But the history of the man has endured and is celebrated as much today as it ever was. But now in 2024, his legacy is often used to support good causes such as this. And by the feeling in this room here tonight, I'm sure that's set to continue for many years to come. Host Alison Walker says while the occasion has changed with the times, the message behind it remains the same.
We still have the same social issues and the same problems. And actually, if you have a bit of fun and lightness in addressing it through Burns' poetry and his songs, it's a bit of light relief. He's a social commentator, and he's still as relevant today as he was all those years ago. We are very lucky to have him, and we need to keep making a fuss because he's really, really important. And the schools and universities and people keep going back to him, and phrases that he's used and words that he's used, they're all in common speak. So that says to me, that's why Burns really matters, and that's why we need to continue the tradition of Burns suppers.